Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. What's going on, everyone? Happy Tuesday? Thursday. Happy Thursday. It's January 9th, 2025. Hope you are doing well indeed. So, as promised, if you didn't catch my message yesterday, then maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you did, and you do, then as promised, I am going to pull from my new deck, which is the Disney Princess affirmation cards that I got not too long ago. I'll show you the box in case you're interested. Can you see those? Yeah. Affirmation cards. 52 ways to celebrate inner beauty, courage, and kindness. Okay, so that's what we're drawing from on today. I do have the booklet on standby because it does have like a bit more of an extra excerpt from the card itself. But I don't know, like it real other than me pulling one card from it yesterday, it really is us exploring this deck together. So as promised, I said I was going to be bringing some new energy to the table, so just keep an open mind. You don't have to be a man or masculine to be inspired by the Disney princesses. You can consider their male counterparts, perhaps, which they all had one for the most part, or some count, like some equal or opposite to their character for the most part. And yeah, we'll see where it goes. So not too long ago, actually, my son had asked me, Mom, if you could transform into anything, what would you transform into and why? And I was like, I thought about it for a second, but I was like, nothing. I love me. I wouldn't want to be anything else but me. Maybe just a better version of me, but certainly nothing else or no one else. But after, buying this deck, I thought about it amusingly that if there was anything I would be, it would be a Disney princess. I love the princesses. Of course, I grew up on them. My favorite one in particular is Cinderella, and of course then Tiana, because she's the black princess. You gotta love the black princess, and the witchy one at that, the spiritual one, so to speak. So between the mix of those two, I fancy myself somewhere between those energies. But who doesn't love Cinderella? She's just like the tops, right? So anyway, welcome to my little enchanted garden of sorts for today. And I'm just going to pull a couple of cards. I don't think I'm going to stay too long. I'll see what channels from them, maybe check in with the book to see if there's anything extra, and we'll head on out. All right, so let's see where we are. And these are even harder to shuffle because they're big and they're new, so I don't know how this is about to go. Okay, we got Ariel. I have a voice that, wow. Let's just go one at a time because I don't know what to expect. This is an affirmation card. They're all different. Well, they're different types. My hands are a little oily, so forgive the splotches. But this is an affirmation card, and it's, of course, Princess Ariel from The Little Mermaid. And it says, I have a voice that matters. My voice is one of the most valuable tools I possess. It takes courage to speak up for what I believe is right. Wow. I mean, it's almost like, what can you even really say about that? This definitely is an encouragement to speak up and speak out. Some of you, as Ariel, one of her prize possessions was her voice, and her one of her prized gifts was her voice, particularly singing was her thing. And it was the one thing that she was willing to sacrifice when she thought that there was, basically for a man, but really not for a man. She wanted to explore life outside of what she had always known, because she felt that was more there was more to what met the eye, more than what she had known, which is cool. But it's something to be said about forfeiting your gifts for the glimmer of greener grass. And in this case, how appropriate, right? Literally, from with her going from sea to land. And although she did connect with the love of her life, it almost cost her the essence of her life, which was her voice, which was her gift. Thankfully, as most Disney movies do, the happy ending is that she was able to get her voice back after a long trial and tribulation without it, and almost actually seeing her, the love of her life be married off to a counterfeit, a doppelganger, an imposter. But as fate would have it, she found her voice at the very at the perfect time, at the, in the what's the phrase? In the nick of time. That's what. Hey, and I think the prince's name was Nick, I think, in the movie. I think it was. Yes, it was. So anyway, if maybe you have something to say or something to express, and you may have even been biting your tongue up until now, here's the green light, the confirmation, the sign, if you will, to use it before you lose it. And that could go for gifts and talents. That could go for just speaking a word, or speaking on what you know, speaking on your experiences. And the lose it part may not be that if you don't sing, you won't be able to, which, singing is a muscle. I mean, it is the exercise of a muscle. So there definitely is some connection to that. But it could just be that it'll lose its savor, or its flavor for the anointed and appointed time that it's been ordained to be expressed or even expelled. Whatever that thing is that you do that's so special, there could be an appointed time for it to be experienced, and you wouldn't want to miss that opportunity. So here's the so-called deeper dive for this card. Even though she knew that King Triton believed all humans to be barbarians, Ariel courageously told her father that she had... his name was Eric. What did I say? Nick. Not Nick. She had feelings for Eric. Can you think of a time that you spoke up for yourself even though you were afraid of the repercussions? There it is, right there. Taking a stance for yourself. Is definitely giving, in terms of tarot, like what is that, 7 of Wands vibes, 6 of Wands, is it 6 of Wands? I think it's 5 of Wands. No, that 6 of Wands is victory. So it's 7 of Wands energy, where it's like it almost feels like you against the world. And certainly in this case, it could be you against tradition or conventions or societal norms and standards, maybe even familial expectations. But Ariel knew what she wanted, and she was even willing to risk it all to have what she desired. And by God, she got it. So let's see. I'll see if I need to backtrack and glean any more off of this, but I have a voice that matters is how we're starting off. So let's see what else we got here. And in this age of Aquarius, there's an extra like an extra incitement, I suppose, to stand up for what you believe in. Is not even just as it pertains to you, but certainly as you can relate to a cause that may even affect society or a greater body of individuals beyond you, but still having an effect on you as well. Like, this is that age of revolution, because I'm reading this here as it says, it takes courage to speak up for what I believe is right. And sometimes in that audacity, there isn't a lot of support at first, for when you take that first stance, whether it be for you and someone else, or for you and many others. But it's the one that feels the burning sensation, so to speak, that has the burden or the blessing of the responsibility to react and respond to it. So we could be talking about something revolutionary that it almost seems bigger than you, as the ocean is bigger than you, or something that's just, special and unique to your own personal desires. Either one is just as important. It makes just as much of a splash, if you will, in the conscious, in the creative conscious grid, to make an impact and make a difference. So let's see what else we got. I would love to get a couple different ones. Okay, we got conversation, if you will. There it is. Rapunzel. Okay. Imagine that you've been stuck inside for a very long time. What will you do when you finally get to go outside? What will you have? Will you have a simple picnic or a grand adventure? Describe it in detail. Now, obviously, you can't talk back to me right now. If this was live, it'd be perfect because you could at least type your response in the comments. I think eventually I will be, trying to go live at some point. I've been waiting for my numbers to get up because, what's the point of a live if it's only you in there, or maybe one or two other people? But I definitely do look forward to going live every now and again in the future. Oh, by the way, these do have numbers too. I didn't catch that at first. So the I Have a Voice That Matters is number 28, which simplifies to a 10 and then a 1. So take that as it resonates. And then this card is a number 12, which simplifies to a 3. Definitely a powerful number. Well, 10 would be a completion, or 1 would be a new beginning. And in either case, it matters because you need to complete a season or an experience before beginning a new one, right? Ariel transitioned from the old world to the new world that was new to her. And she left a lot behind in that transition. But she gained a lot too, because she became a princess and gained a whole new adventure and experience. So, it all works hand in hand. But then we have the number 3, which of course is Trinity number, which is, a powerful expression of spirit, mind, and body being on one accord. And certainly that is the key to feeling unstuck or liberated, especially in this earth realm, when you have all 3 of those energies on one accord and cohesive agreement one to another, So here we have imagining you've been stuck for a while. For some of us, this is so perfect because before the most recent transitions of evolution and transcendence that have been occurring in waves and are still occurring, many of us have been stuck in paradigms that, we felt like like Rapunzel, a princess or a prince trapped inside of a tower where there's all this possibility and world to explore and discover, but for some reason you just can't get out from where you are. You can't seem to break free of the limitations that have been set about you, not necessarily that you have assumed for yourself, but I guess in some ways there was an acceptance for Rapunzel to to be contained where she was for a long time. But what happens when there are no limitations, when there is nothing to blame your stuckness or stagnancy on, which is such the case now, whether you know it to be true or feel like you have the evidence for it or not. Now more than any other time in the past there's a spirit of liberty, and all it's just a matter of believing that it is so for you, and literally taking the reins like Rapunzel is taking her own hair by the strands, and kind of just swinging yourself into adventure as you see fit to do so. And it really is such a great question, because there is no right or wrong answer in this. Like, will you have a simple picnic or a great adventure? What would you do when you finally get to go outside? Like, we outside for many of us, and it's like a brave new world we're discovering. It almost feels like for the first time in a strange way, where it seems a lot of other things are kind of falling apart, and in many other ways. It's like some of us are breathing new air, for what feels like, the first time in our lives, and it's really energetic, like actually feeling the security and the sensation of freedom and liberation and confidence and unbridled curiosity, to just really express and explore for once. And as I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Even the smallest adventure, as a picnic would be, seeming so simple and insignificant, could be a gateway to something more, to something serendipitous, as a matter of fact. So to that point, you just getting out into nature is what I'm sensing might be a gateway to an opportunity that you never saw coming. You just taking a quick trip to the store, or to the market or to the mall or whatever you do in your natural, your natural routine of life, so to speak, could lead to a new discovery of a person, place, or a thing. So in that case, I feel like, these are the princesses. So we can be a little bit vain, a little bit not necessarily vain, but what's the right word? What's the right word? Not materialistic, but I don't know. I guess vain is fine. Whatever. We could definitely, what I'm trying to say, and which will make all the sense in the world when I get it out, is that don't take any opportunity for granted. When you step out, step out. Okay? Especially if you're someone that's in the market for your Prince Charming or for a golden opportunity, I can speak to this myself, because sometimes I'll go out with my son. As a matter of fact, recently we went out. It was supposed to be a quick trip, and not that I didn't go out looking bad or anything like that. Like, I definitely was put together, but we went out to go run some quick errands, and then one thing led to the next, and I ended up over the bridge in Philly and on a whole new trajectory of adventure than what I had set out to do. And luckily I was dressed for the adventure, but I certainly didn't plan on it when I left. So, something simple, seemingly as that experience, I guess is me saying just be prepared for the best, for the most of your day every time that you step out. And there is an opportunity, there is an invitation to definitely look to create adventure, but in this day and age, especially if you're in the frequency of the princess energies, queen energy, prince energy, king energy, just regal, regal energy in general, adventure will probably find you. Just as sure as I said, I was only going out for one thing, one or two things, and it ended up being a whole day, So, won't hurt to look good, look polished, look put together, look princessy or princely. Come on. This is really going to aggravate me that it's not trying to. Okay, we got to bring it down a little bit. Okay. All right. So, yeah, so get ready for some adventure is basically what that's saying to me. Let's just take a quick look at the, because I'm only going to pull a few cards, so I might as well look at the book, the deep dive. Let's see. Okay. Deep dive. After Rapunzel left her tower for the first time, Flynn Rider observed that she seemed at war with herself. I think Flynn was her prince. I'm not as familiar with Rapunzel. I have watched it like once or twice, but I don't know that one front and back like I do some of the others. She couldn't decide if the best day ever, if the best day ever I'm sorry, she couldn't decide if it was the best day ever or if she was betraying her mother's trust. And I was going to speak on this too. Have you ever felt at war with yourself? Interesting, because this kind of bounces off of the Ariel card where she was somewhat conflicted, but Ariel was way more rebellious in nature than Rapunzel was. Rapunzel was actually quite devoted to her mother's wishes. If you remember, mother knows best, listen to your mama. That was the song. And then turns out that wasn't her mother at all. Again, another imposter, someone that had taken dominion over her guardianship unlawfully, from what I remember. I forget how she ended up with her. I feel like she stole her from a king or queen or something on a birthday and then kept her captive in the tower. I can't remember. But either way, to Rapunzel, that's all she ever knew. That was her mom. And she was more or less like conditioned or brainwashed, dare I say, to follow the rules, not having any real rhyme or reason for why she could never go outside or why no one could ever come in. She, found a certain sense of security in operating in those confines, as uncomfortable as they became as she grew older and more curious. So when she finally did escape and get out, she was conflicted. And I can relate to this so much because I was literally talking about this yesterday, about the conflict of following your heart and your natural impulses to explore and discover who you are and what makes you tick, and what of you is what aspect of you is ignited by your surroundings and what is supposed to be an ignition, if that makes sense. Like it's an exchange thing that happens when, what is the word, when you are in the process of individuating. I think that's the right word, which is more or less establishing an identity for yourself that's separate from what you have been groomed or conditioned to know, especially from childhood. And there is a great conflict that arises when you feel guided to explore a sense of yourself, or a part of the world that is not necessarily sanctioned by those that have raised you, or those that proclaim to have your best interest at heart. And it really does come down to, what does your soul say? What does your supreme self command of you? And really deciding bravely what matters most. There's always that choice to stay in the tower and stay safe and secure where it's familiar. And then there's also the choice to break out and explore, even at the expense of great disheartening or disapproval from those that you do respect a great deal. So when it comes down to it, and even you can generalize that, by societal standards, like, do you stay in the confines of what has been deemed as normal or acceptable, understandable, all those things? Or do you bust out and do your own thing, great or small? And if you decide to do so, what does that look like? Because honestly, the adventures do begin in your mind before they materialize. I can imagine that Rapunzel and even Ariel, all of the princesses had a very vivid imagination before they actually experienced the creativity that they were thoughtful about, so you can begin to craft that adventure in your mind even before you have to have the courage to actually experience it. Some of the greatest escapes are in the fantasies of the mind. I can definitely attest to that. All right, so let's see what else we got here. So what would you do if you were to finally get out, or when you break out, or now that you are out, now that you have the liberty to express yourself and explore as your heart so desires? What's next is the question. All right, let's do another one. I would love to get a yellow one. I think I gotta go a little slower on this deck because it's not that many cards, but they're thick and they're long, so it's hard to really grip them. Let's see. Oh, lost one over there. And that's my girl, Cinderella. But she's all the way over there, turned upside down at that. I may still take her. We'll close it out with that. So there's Belle. Let's see what else we got. Oh, no, it's too many. I'm going to put it back because it was more than just Cinderella. It was a few. So I'll put her back. If she wants to come back out, you're more than welcome, Cindy. All right, so let's see. Belle is saying to us, and this is another affirmation card. Let me pull it up, sorry. Even though I think you can see these pretty well because of the colors down there. I am different. I am the author of my own story. I won't be afraid to write something new and different. But being different makes me special. Well, I'll be. That pretty much just affirms or confirms what I was just talking about. Or when you feel called to do something outside of the norm, out of the beyond the status quo, maybe in conflict with who you've been raised to be or groomed to be or conditioned to be by society, family, friends, or otherwise circumstances. This is accepting your differences, which we all have an invitation, an eternal open invitation to do. It's like the greatest jailbreak in humanity is accepting our differences as we reverence the differences in others, you know, like our uniqueness, even as we are all connected. It's a hard line to toe when you are constantly bombarded with reasons why you should fall in line or what you should do to feel accepted or feel appreciated, or even feeling scrutinized or condemned for expressing your uniqueness in ways, and it being stamped as strange or weird or whatever, even some worse words, you know. But this is definitely giving you the green light to be you and to write your own story. Don't let anybody else write it for you, and to not be afraid of whatever this new path that, you know, this new adventure that you may be about to embark upon, and how being different is really your calling card, you know, to do what everyone else is doing. There's really nothing too exciting about that in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's like if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And this is the number 29, which boils down to an 11 or a 2. 11 is a strong number, 2 is a strong number. But it definitely does speak to, you know, perhaps I would say in that regard, with it being 11 and then the 2, the least common, the sum, it's really about gathering the duality of your nature and allowing it to thrive harmoniously, is what I'm sensing. For a lot of us, we live in this duality where there's one expression of us that is most palatable because it's most accepting. And then usually there's a secret self, or maybe a sacred self, that we covet and protect on the inside, until we feel the courage to allow the two to merge, or to just, you know, allow both to express themselves freely. Usually there's the conflict of inner security for a while, until we find the boldness to express every aspect of our beauty on the inside and the outside. And coincidentally, we have Belle, which is an expression of beauty, right? So yeah, so it's definitely about letting your freak flag fly a little bit this year, maybe a little more than you did last year, perhaps, if you kind of need to take your time with it. Where you feel like the world ain't quite ready for all that you have to give. I assure you it is, more than it even knows that it is. It's probably the world is ready for uniqueness in a way that it doesn't even realize it needs yet, because it hasn't quite experienced it. But as more and more people are starting to wave that flag, surrendering and submitting to the whole of themselves, it's becoming, you know, more normal, actually, to, like, there's more normalization of being a little bit weird, a little bit off brand from the norm, than it is to fall in line and be a cookie cutter, you know, or to be a carbon copy. So this is just really celebrating your differences. And let's think about Belle. She was beautiful. Her counterpart was the Beast, who had to learn appreciation for beauty beyond what he could see. So that's an interesting aspect. And then encountered her, who was everything beautiful on the outside, but still wasn't willing to, you know, to take his shit. Pretty much, like he taught Belle a lesson. She taught the Beast a lesson in beauty that was beyond aesthetics, because she was all of that, you know, on sight. but he hadn't really experienced the beauty of the heart and the beauty of pure love and innocence and purity until he had encountered her. And that was the life-changing experience. That ultimately did open her up as well to allow herself to be more loved and accepted, because she kind of lived on the fringe of society where she was from, kind of was used to being the strange, what they call her? So peculiar. Yeah, they called her peculiar and strange. But she was happy in that reality, that reality of one for herself pretty much. But then she gained the expansion of her universe in a very unassuming place when she encountered the beast. So there's definitely, of course, with all the princesses, there is the hint of, and this also being the 11 and the 2, definitely makes sense why I'm going more into the partnership vibe, because there's something to be said not only about the gathering of your own dual nature, the masculine and feminine aspect of you, the inner and outer expression of you, and letting it thrive cohesively. But there's also something to be said about being open to connection and to explore partnership and relationship in ways that you never would have imagined you could before. I mean, he was a beast, for crying out loud, a rich beast, but he was a beast. And here that ended up being her true love, and I think yesterday's message kind of touched on that a little bit, about just being open to things, maybe not really appearing, not being all that they appear to be, or they're being more than what meets the eye. And it being a pleasant surprise, for sure. So there's that. Let's see if anything else sparks from the book, just to keep it consistent. And I'm gonna pull one more and then we out here. All right. Deeper dive. Belle certainly had the opportunity for a conventional life. Gaston wanted her to settle down and be his wife, but Belle wanted something different for her future. Pardon me, what do you envision for your future? Write it down. Imagine several different paths that your autobiography could take. Yeah, so that's pretty self-explanatory. She had the choice between the conventional, there must be more than this provincial life. She had the choice between the conventional provincial life, with Gaston, who on sight was like the hunk of the town. He looked like the strong one, the one that could protect and the alpha male and blah 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 blah. But like I said, when it came down to it, it was something much different that she didn't really encounter until she actually left her conventional life and explored outside of it. And it ended up being something way more than what she had bargained for. So what do you envision for your future? Write it down. Never too late or too soon to scribe your desires and your ambitions and manifestations. As I said before, it definitely starts in the mind, but hell, if you can get it down on pen and paper, you pretty much just wrote it in stone. You'd be surprised to go back at things that you may have written some time ago, that you may have even forgotten about, that may be coming into fruition now as we speak. That's the type of season that we're in. And now we're in an accelerated time frame where you could write something down today and be experiencing it tomorrow. That's how fast things can move, just off of the magic that you expel. So let's see what else we got. One more And it didn't end up being as short and sweet as I thought, but that's okay. Let's see. It's just a regular old reading. Let's see. Be nice to get a yellow card. Oh, nope. We got a pink one. Well, that means we definitely have to revisit this deck another time. That's all. All right, so this is another conversation card. Those are the pink cards. And this is Mulan, I believe. I really don't know her story all that well. So let's see what we got. The accomplishment I'm most proud of is bringing honor to my family. What have you accomplished that made you proud of yourself? Wow. You know what? And this is a real interesting one that I'm going to piggyback off of the theme that was more pronounced throughout. And this idea of almost like separation from convention and tradition. Of course, Mulan, who was of the Asian persuasion, was definitely devout in her allegiance to family and dynasty and tradition and, you know, the family way and the pride of her people. And I would say that that's a beautiful thing and it's definitely important. I would also say that sometimes that exhibition of pride can also come from the indifference that you insist upon as well. You know, sometimes it takes that step out of what has always been the ritual or the cycle of life as it's been passed down from generation to generation. Sometimes it takes stepping outside of that to actually be as just as much, if not more, of a treasure to your bloodline and to your legacy than it would have been for you to stay within it, especially if there's any discomfort or dissension in the acceptance of that truth for yourself. So I'm saying that it could be something that is perfectly fine up until here you come, you know, and then there could be something that your spirit is guided to, like Ariel. The ocean was perfectly fine until she came along and wanted to explore beyond that. For Rapunzel, the tower was home until she realized that there was so much more to explore outside of that. For Belle, being strange and weird but yet a bit isolated in her environment was just a normal way of life until she found acceptance and understanding in a strange place, you know, and that changes the trajectory for your legacy that oftentimes is more of a calling and a birthright than it is a condemnation, you know. Now for Mulan, I think that she did something unconventional too, because I think there was something about her becoming like a warrior or a samurai or something, which was a very masculine dominated role. And she, of course, obviously broke barriers in that regard, but against the, you know, the greater tradition, prevailing tradition of her culture at the time. So although she definitely prioritized the honor of her family, even she stepped out of the convention and tradition that she was groomed by. So, I mean, there's to whom much is given, much is required, you know. So if you find yourself at odds with yourself on account of what tradition dictates, convention confines, you know, it absolutely, I mean, if you're still listening to this message, I'm probably preaching to the choir that you already know what you have to do. And that is to do you know, at all costs. But I want to definitely express an emphasis because this is what I didn't really have, per se, in a very settling way, which is a comfort of knowing that although I may have been doing something different than what I was groomed to do, raised to do, or exposed to, it still had great value, not only to my path, but even to the legacy that I am still destined to lead. And it's just as important as anything and anyone that has come before you as it is those that may come after you. As a matter of fact, maybe even more so, because it changes trajectories in a way that if you don't walk that way, it may make that pathway more treacherous for the ones that come behind you to do, because somebody's going to do it. The task and the right just keeps getting passed down on and on. But with each lifetime, I would think that the degree of difficulty can be greater, if there aren't certain steps that are taken from the generation before, which most times there's at least some small steps where, the curve is shaved just a bit for what you have to learn coming thereafter. But sometimes, unfortunately, cycles are just reoccurring in such a way where everybody's just doing what they know and what feels familiar and what is safe, that it doesn't really necessarily open up a gateway for the road less traveled to be that much to be any easier. It doesn't. It's an invitation nonetheless. But sometimes when you have to deal with the contention of satisfying convention and still, soothing convention and satisfying your own curiosity, it can make for a more difficult transition. So I'm here to say, from my personal experience of, one that sometimes had to encourage herself to keep going and to give myself permission to explore the aspects of myself and my spiritual sensibility beyond what was resistant. There is a purpose for it. It's your path, and there is a purpose for it that serves greatly not just you but others as well. And sometimes we go down paths, and sometimes we do find ourselves in spaces and places that we don't wish to remain, but it's all a part of the journey. So even if you find yourself in a space that you think or feel like, if I never would have came down this path, I wouldn't be here. Trust me, every part of the journey is necessary, and you can always turn around, or you can always turn off or change directions. But to not go at all, I feel, is the greatest disservice that you can sometimes do, especially in the name of fear or out of, insecurity. That can be that could be the greatest disservice you do for yourself and for those that come after you. All right. So what have you accomplished that, and I love that, like, what have you accomplished aside from family, outside of family? Like, what are you most proud of, for you, by you, of you? What makes you smile to say, yeah, I did that? It could be even just to make a choice to serve yourself above all else itself that you could be proud of, because that's not easy to do. So it's the small things, it's the great things, and really there are no small things, really is the point. So let's see what else. One more deep dive in, and then we'll close it out. All right, hold on. Where's Mulan? Yeah, here she is in the warrior stance. So I know it was something about that, but I don't know the whole story. Did I miss it? I must have missed it. Hold on. Where you at, girl? I done went through the book 2 whole times. How am I missing it? Where you at? Do they not have everyone in here? I would imagine they do. That wouldn't make sense. Okay. No. Hold on, y'all. Give me a minute. No. This is weird. Maybe they don't have them all. That doesn't make sense to me, though. I've literally gone through every page, and that one is not in here. Am I tripping? I mean, if I can, maybe really they're just not all in here. That could be the case. But if I can glean any channeling off of that, perhaps there doesn't need to be much of a deeper dive, really. You know, maybe the shallow end of the pool of what makes you proud and pleased to be you is where it starts. Maybe it doesn't even have to be that deep. You know, like we make it more deep, and we've been conditioned to think that it has to be more deep. Yeah, it's not in here than it actually is. You know, like even the idea of so-called disappointing family itself can be more of a deeper introspection and even I would say self-imposed pressure than it should be, you know, or at least than it needs to be in order for you to be productive. So I'm gonna, you know, resolve. Obviously, it really isn't in there, but maybe some of them aren't in there. But I'm gonna glean that from the card that it really, there is no extra explanation, and that part, this question is really up to you. The self-discovery of it all and the application, you know, the reaction and response of it all. It comes down to how can you make yourself proud. That you making yourself proud ultimately is the pride of your legacy in itself. Whether it's spoken, acknowledged, rewarded, applauded, or not. That is what it is. That's what it comes down to. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. Again, 52:52 as I looked up on the clock. 7:7. Take that as you will. Oh, by the way, did this card have a number? This one didn't even have a number. So this really stands out. That's weird. But I'm still learning the deck, so we'll see how it all pans out. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little shift from the norm of tarot. And I hope that there was enough messaging conveyed that makes sense and matters to you to live your best princess or prince and queen and king life. You know, we all have to start as princesses and princes at some point, right? And some of us are still nurturing that aspect within ourselves, i.e. our inner child. You know, I feel like that may be an eternal process, you know, given the experiences that we have in humanity. You know, maybe our children's children and so on may not have that charge, but for us, we may always be nurturing our inner child, you know. So I appreciate these cards for bringing that energy to the table. I hope that you do too, and that you take the questions and the charges that came up considerably to heart. You know, like maybe have a little journaling session with yourself. It may help to put some things in perspective and planning for a very powerful year ahead. You know, let's go 2025 and beyond, if we will, you know. But anyway, that's all I got for you. Thanks for indulging me. Probably be back to tarot on the next one, but hopefully we'll just keep switching it up and changing it up in this space, to stay entertained, to stay curious, you know, together. In any event, thanks again for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.